and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. We've got over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. Call them today at 466-4938.
Good evening. This is Tuesday evening, and this means that the Let's Talk program is back. And hearing my voice obviously tells you that Weber might be somewhere in Czechoslovakia, maybe in Prague. So who knows? Maybe as he has gotten his award, they have now appointed him to be ambassador to far-reaching place of Czechoslovakia. So I am in the hot seat again this evening. So I must say good evening to all the listeners and viewers of St. Kitts and Nevis, those who will be listening to us on the World Wide Web and through the Caribbean Basin. Good evening, and we're hoping that you would tune in, call in, and be part of this program, because this is your program. We're here to disseminate information to you with the hope that we can all go forward and upward and build our nation. At this particular juncture, I will now introduce Dr. Patricia Bartlett as co-host.
Stanley, somebody would think that we have a truce.
No, there's no truth. There's no truth, because I'm going to ask you.
Good evening, Mr. Stanley. And good evening to the listening and viewing audiences. It's a pleasure indeed to be in your company tonight. Mr. Stanley, just please allow me just to say a special good evening to a few people. Like in St. Kitts, I have my cousin, and he's always listening. So tonight I'd like to say, Sinmic, good evening, and I hope you have a splendid independence when it comes around. To my friends in the USVI, you know who you are. To my friends in New York and the entire diaspora, and in particular the people in the UK, because we know that they tune in and they listen to us every Tuesday night, and it's always a pleasure to be in their company as well. My husband, I know you're losing a little sleep just to hear your wife's voice tonight. Good evening, and I hope that you'll be able to catch up sometime soon. Mr. Stanley, I heard you say that it's going to be a hot seat tonight, and indeed it's going to be hot, because when you don't have enough people, who are sharing the seat, sometimes you can't share the fire. So, well, Naya is here, has joined us. So I'm expecting quite a heated, discussion tonight, or spirited rather, not heated, spirited, because Naya, usually have a lot on his, when he brings a lot to the plate, So looking forward to a fruitful discussion tonight. Mr. Stanley, thanks for the invitation to join you.
Very well. Good evening, Naya.
Good evening, Mr. Stanley, and a pleasant good evening to my colleague here around the table, to the hard-working staff here at Vaughan Radio. Pleasant good evening, and to all in tune to the program. A pleasant good evening to you guys. Of course, we're in another celebration. We're experiencing another celebration of independence, and so we're wondering if the whole issue and the reality of independence have really reached home to Nibijans, because once upon a time, not too long ago, probably about 2 to 3 years ago, we were saying somehow the spirit of independence, especially during the time when we are celebrating it, never reaches the people of Nevis. Is it the fact that it never reaches the people of Nevis, or the people of Nevis has a half-hearted interest in the independence of St. Kitts Nevis and the celebration thereof? So that is probably an issue we can look at, because believe it or not, somehow Nibijans are not as wind up as Kittitians when it comes to the celebration of independence. Apart from that, I'm happy to be here once again, and I'm looking forward to a spirited debate, Mr. Stanley.
Very well. Let me just dovetail a piece there by amplifying. I am a patriot. I love Nevis. I love St. Kitts. I do not know how you have deduced that people in St. Kitts celebrate our independence more so than our people in Nevis, because I'm certain on the 19th we would have our parade. We would have the whole gamut. Speeches by the Premier, and I'm certain that those of us who would be present would enjoy just as much as those in St. Kitts who would be present. Remember that our population is much smaller, and as a result, it would not be as large in numbers as the case of St. Kitts is numbers. And therefore, I do not know what barometer you have used to determine patriotism and the level at which we celebrate our independence. Dear Nivisians, no matter how few, we do enjoy Independence Day. You mentioned about the national service, church service. It was very well attended in my view. I sat in the church. I didn't get an opportunity to see how many people outside of the church, but the number of cars that filled the parking area at the Methodist Church in Charlestown was a clear demonstration that we are part of this celebration. And again, I would like you to explain as to how you have arrived at making that determination that we do not embrace our independence as Nivisians as much as people in St. Kitts. And if I may have interpreted this whole thing incorrectly, please correct me. Naya.
You probably halfway interpreted correctly, Mr. Stanley. What I'm talking about is, and I think I made reference to yesteryear or recent years gone by. Of course, the unity government have extended themselves and have really make certain. I think they have made a desperate effort to incorporate the people of Nevis more so. One example of that, I suppose, is the bringing of the church service, which is a fundamental, important and relevant part of the celebration. Bringing that church service to Nevis, and I understand it's in Nevis one year, I think it's in the other year and so forth, which is good. But apart from that, I believe generally on Nevis, I would have much support in saying that prior to the unity government, Nivisions seems to be a little laid back on the matter of independence. Not forgetting, of course, we were half-hearted in that decision because we had at the time a different political climate here. At the time, I think we had one political party, and the whole of Nevis was behind that political party. And of course, the issue then was secession, to secede from St. Kitts. I know the NRP party back then was split in two when we found ourselves going into independent with St. Kitts. And for that very same reason, throughout the many years, and because we always of the opinion that Nivisians are treated as second-class citizens, not just in opportunity that is laid out for the Federation, but in terms of grants, in terms of general incorporation into the life of what we looked at as a federation. It's just quite recently, I mean, just recently Mark is still saying that we're still not getting our equal share or sufficiency of the what is due to us. And so Nivisians was always half-stepping, half-hearted about the independence thing. I am not questioning the patriotism part of it, because I believe Nivisians love Nevis. Nivisians are very much patriotic. I think if that has been reduced, it is because of politics, really. And now we are seeing two different political parties, and things that divide, and the country divides along political line, political issues, some things that are good for Nevis. And generally, we know it's good for Nevis just because they're in the opposition. They're going to say it's not good for Nevis. And this happens with both political parties. And in a general sense, it's very bad for Nevis. Back then, under the NRP, prior to independence, 1980, in the early 80s, of course, it was only the NRP. So we had that strong sense of unity. I think they had some casual referendum, and I say casual because I'm not sure how official they were. And of course, I mean, we were seeing 90% of the people in support of separating from St. Kitts. So going into independence with St. Kitts wasn't something that Nivision as a whole was acceptance of, really. And I think throughout the many years, I feel like Nevis and Nivisians have not been participating, and they have not been emotional. They have not been sensitive and reactive to, as the Kittitians are, the celebration of our independence. And recently I've been seeing an improvement in that. I'm not sure how plastic it is or falsified it is. I'm not sure how prompt up it is. I'm not sure how much it's coming from the people or actually coming from the politician as an imposition on the people that, yes, we should get you guys moving and emotional and involved in this thing. And I see the unity government have made a great effort in that respect. So you can say what you're saying now, Mr. Stanley, the church service. Before, we never hear about no church service. All the church service was always being held in St. Kitts. And here we had a concert. I'm not sure if it came off just the other night. You know, so there's an effort to include Nevis and to bring some life to Nivisians as it relates to the celebration of the independence. I hope I've made it just a little more clearer for you.
All right.
Stanley?
Well, maybe we might get a comment from Dr. Bartlett with reference to the National Day of Prayer, church service. Like I said, it was well attended.
I can't comment on it because I wasn't there myself. But to what Naya was saying, it is true that over the years, Nivisians seem not to have the same level of involvement And that is just by observation. I don't have any data to support it. It's just by observation. People just don't seem as enthusiastic, and I guess that is a subjective statement coming from me. Other people might have different views, like Stanley, you might have different views. But generally, I think people kind of started to get a little more, comfortable since we started to be a little more included, in the activities. Years gone by, before the unity government, like Naya would have referenced, people, hardly anything happened over here during that period of time. One would think that it is good to alternate things, and I think that the effort that has been made is a reasonable effort to get people included. It might be a little late now because once people take a certain position, it's difficult sometimes to shake people, especially in divisions. I mean, you ever see divisions in a concert or anything? It's not easy to get them to move. There are a lot of very emotional people like so. So as it relates to the involvement now, like I said, I think there's an effort, and we appreciate that. And I think that division should always be included. And if it is that the Governor General could have come over sometimes when we have the parade over here, make it a little more official. Well, not that it isn't official, but I'm just saying as head of state, that might have been something that could have made divisions over the years feel a little more included. But be that as it may, I think people in Nevis is going to be divided anyway because of politics. So when the NRP is in power, you're going to find the people who are aligned with that particular party. They would come out and they would support. They would say they would come out in in the morning and come to the parade. However, when the other party is in power, you'll find that those same people stay home. So you always have a divided fraction in Nevis, in that you would never find all the people who ought to be out celebrating out at the same time, just because they've aligned themselves to party instead of concentrating on the country. And that is something I think we need to work on. People need to understand, this is our country. You're not going to have the same people who you like. Because for me, I think it's really, the difference between the parties is not really that great. It's just about, personalities, really. It's not about the different policies that they have. The policies that they have are different. So people need to understand that at the end of the day, the politicians not really, they knock their glasses together, And as a general populace, we need to start, I think, thinking more along the line of integrating rather than separating, and stop following politicians because they would just tear the country apart. But as a sensible set of people, we need to be able to embrace our patriotism. We ought to be able to go out and celebrate it, and recognizing that, we've come a long way. We have a lot of work to do, yes, we have a lot of work to do, but we can only do it when we unite. And with if you're in a unity government, that makes it even easier for us, because at least we get a little bit of something from St. Kitts, I would imagine, to help pay for the activities over here, So I'll encourage people to go out and, participate in whatever is there to be, offered free. This is not a time when I think people have a lot of money to spend for various reasons, and I guess that is something that will come up in for discussions.
Well, I must say that we must take this opportunity now that you both have that view, that our level of patriotism in Nevis is lower than that of the people of St. Kitts.
No, that was not the point. I was not questioning the level of patriotism of the people, talking about the level of participation. And there's a distinct difference, It's not because I don't love my country where I didn't go to the concert. I'm just not, I just don't think that you mix water and oil. And I was telling someone today, mixing water and oil for me is not good. And even if the oil is olive oil, you don't mix water and oil. And so that's why I didn't go to the concert. When I go to a gospel concert, I want to go to a gospel concert. If I want to go to, not because it's Maxi Priest, he priest. So just get that right, get it right. I personally, that's why I didn't go. I don't know about other people. But that does not mean that I'm not a patriotic person.
Well, the thing is that it is something that we all feel, and I am hoping that we must use this opportunity, and we will use this opportunity now that we have identified a lower level in terms of numbers based on your perception, that we can make the clarion call and ask our people to rise to the occasion and believe in their country. And when something like of this magnitude is present, be there there are people in the United States, soldiers, who they know they wouldn't return, but yet, because of the love of their country, they've decided that they will go to war just to defend the country. I do not know if, but I hope we wouldn't have a war in our country where our people would be fighting against each other, or we have to go elsewhere to fight. But again, patriotism is that word that we've learned very early in our education, and as a result, many of us put a certain level of seriousness to it, and as a result, we rise to the occasion. I just like to hear our national anthem played. I like to participate in our national anthem in terms of singing the song that was created by Kenrick Georges. And in that regard, it brings a certain sense to me personally. And I'm hoping that we must use this occasion, and we will use this occasion to telegraph to our people that when this occasion arises, we all must become participants. The Governor General, Sir Tapley Seaton, he wasn't there, but was delightfully, respectfully, and highly represented by Our Lady Hyleta Liburd, and he is a lady now in big position, as you would always say, give the ladies a chance, and she was there representing the country as the acting Governor General in full accolade, full colors.
Representing the Queen.
Representing whatever, the position of the Governor General who represents the Queen. Okay. But what I'm saying to you, she was there in that role as the head of the country. So, again, let us all rise to the occasion. The Reverend Bonnie Byron, who gave a very sterling piece of, I would say, preaching, and she touched on all the aspects, all the avenues, politics, the division in the country, tribalism, political tribalism, poverty, peace, prosperity, where we were, where we are, where we are going, and I tell you, it was rather comprehensive. Some people may have gotten rubbed the wrong way based on some of the things that she said, but she was straightforwardly speaking from the Bible. And I will tell you, she delivered very well, and it was a great service. And again, I am hoping that we can use this occasion to urge our people to fully participate in our independence church services, independence celebration, the one that will be coming up on the 19th. And let's see El Camino Willet Park filled, pavilion filled with our people, just to show the spirit of independence and what independence means to us as a people and as a country. St. Kitts and Nevis is one. And when I say that, one nation, and in that regard, we must always participate in that way. Team Unity, as you have mentioned, both of you have mentioned, has maybe made it more prominent with reference to the participation of our people. Well, it is not that difficult. It is a self-fulfillment activity, in my view. You know, today is September 19th, meaning the day of independence celebration, the day of independence. And thus, we all should embrace it, celebrate it, and become full patriots in our country. Peace hath its victory, and it's no less renowned than war, meaning we should rise to the occasion in peace, just as if we had a war and you were called upon to go and defend the country and its peoples. We'll take a break.
right, kids. Keep it sweet. Keep listening to Vaughn.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. We've got over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. Call them today at 466-4938.
Yes, we are back. And this, of course, is your show. And we are hoping that we would get some calls from you, the listening and viewing audiences, to carry our show forward and to disseminate information that you have to those who don't have it. And therefore, we all would participate in our show that has been on now for the past 31 years. Webb, of course, is not here, as we have mentioned earlier, and as a result, I'm in the hot seat this evening. The storm that is brewing in the area of, it's well, not the Bahamas, but not the Azores either, but anyway, we in the Caribbean, this is the hurricane season, and as a result, we have to prepare ourselves for these storms. Based on what I understood, we are up to number 10, and I hope that the Lord spares us and would spare the other countries of the Caribbean from these ravages. Fortunately, like I said, Nevis had been hit back in 1989 and a little forward in the years, but from 1928 to 1989, we had been spared. Some people may not understand the reason, but I am fully convinced that our mountain has protected us. I got a call from someone who was very close to me, and they asked me, well, how are you faring with the storm? And I said, I rest my faith in the Lord, who has provided us with Nevis, the mountain in Nevis, St. Kitts, Liamiga.
I still, you keep saying it and just don't understand how you arrived at that, you know?
Well, you may not understand it, but maybe you should
Yeah, because sometimes you have to
go into physics, and you would be able to understand it more.
No. If it is not tracking over us. Stanley, I hear you saying all the time, and I guess maybe it's just a feeling you have.
No, it's not a feeling, but go ahead, state what you have to state.
No, but you're saying it's not really logical, though. Sometimes you have a storm that is wider than Nevis. Nevis is only 6 by 6, you know. Nevis is 36 miles, 6 miles, 1 by 6 miles. Sometimes you have a storm that is 45 miles wider. I mean, I don't understand how you arrived at that. And I don't see any evidence of that the mountain would have deflected anything. So I just thought I should say that. Let me leave it right there.
Well, you could do your own physics. You know, you can set up a physics lab and get wind pressure with something that would show you. Set up maybe a simple bottle.
No, but you're the one with the theory.
I'm just saying to you that it is a fact.
What?
It's a fact.
What is the fact?
The fact that the mountain being of such solid mass, such a solid mass, it plays a critical role in forcing the storm to go around and
go
over.
around where? Go around where? The storm tracking coming. Well, never mind.
Conceptually, you can't grab it,
No,
grasp it. So therefore, leave it.
Stanley, what you
let's-
say is not logical. And I'm
Well-
just saying, do not force that on the people out there, because
I'm not forcing it on anybody. I'm just saying to you that you may not grasp it.
because it's not logical. That's why I can't grasp it.
Well,
Because if a storm is tracking to the south of us, the mountain has nothing to do with it. If a storm is tracking to the north of us, before it gets here, I mean, it's already on a projected path, and the different variations in the atmosphere that, affect where the storm would go. But I don't think it has anything to do with Nevis Peak.
Well, you
I mean, we have had hurricanes here. Anyway. Anyway, like I said, I'll leave it there because...
you can't conceptually understand the,
'cause it doesn't
the
make sense.
physics.
No,
right? So therefore
no. Don't say that.
I'm telling you.
Because that's not based on any principle in physics that I have been exposed to.
Well,
maybe there was a different kind of physics. Maybe there was a different kind of physics when you went to school. But when I went to school and I passed physics, trust me, that was not anything. There's no category that I could put that in. That is just nonsense talk.
Well, I'm saying to you, you know in terms of ear pressure, and you are attempting to put some ear pressure through a solid mask and see if that ear pressure penetrates that solid mask. And if it doesn't, it means it has to go around it, over it, and if you can't get under it, anyway, let's leave it at that.
We should.
All right.
I think we should.
Anyway, I will employ both of you to open your slate based on what you have brought to the table and get something on the table. I have a few more things to put on the table. In the meantime, we as a country, we have some corporate citizens. We know them, some of the institutions, financial, commercial, and we have, and let me bring it straight to the fore, Scantel, which came off of Cable and Wireless. It became Lime, and now it's Flow. And they brought this bit of information to my desk that few of the people who are working at the office in Charlestown were brought from our sister islands in Kitts, and some of our people who were there for a number of years, for whatever reason, are no longer there, and it has become a concern for some of our people who recognize this as something obvious, that those people are no longer there, but yet new faces are serving us with reference to our paying our bill, they're accepting our money, and so on. Sure, we are a country, two entities, one nation, one people, and in that regard, we have the right to work in St. Kitts as Nevisians, and Kittitians have the right to work in Nevis as Kittitians. But sometimes a corporate entity has to become more sensitive and fulfill their role in the community with reference to employment. And if this is something that was done simply because of a choice of location, people, then become compassionate to the extent where let's share the pie. Let's give Nevisians some space, room, work, ultimately money which they would earn, and bring them some sense of independence as we celebrate our independence. Once we have employment, we know we earn from that employment, and it does give us that lineage, that leverage, that avenue to bring about some degree of independence. So with the information reaching my desk that there are faces that are seemingly from St. Kitts, and those faces that we have seen over a number of years who were truly Nevisians, working in Nevis at that office, I am hoping that the authorities will become more sensitive and understand the plight of those of us who go there, pay our money. We are from Nevis. We make our money in Nevis. And therefore, we are hoping that the pie should be shared and keep our Nevisian people employed at that office. So even though you have changed your name from one corporate citizen to the other for whatever reason, whether it was for longevity, as the case might be, you still have an obligation to fulfill your role as an employer and to have compassion on those who work and show some sensitivity with regard to Nevisians who, in fact, pay their bill at that Nevis office in Charlestown. They have become very sensitized over the matter that people are there whom they have never seen before, but yet they're in the position now where Nevisians have been. And those Nevisians should be given an opportunity for employment and the ultimate goal for some sense of independence. Dr. Bartlett, a comment from you? Naya, a comment from you if you so feel. Good evening. You're on Let's Talk.
Good night, Mr. Stanley.
Good night.
Mr. Stanley, you were speaking about the mountain and the hurricane. I would like you to continue the conversation. If there's no sense in it, I'll gather it, and if there's sense in it, I'll gather it. Please continue the conversation when you're ready. I would like to hear more about it. I might get some sense out of it. Thank you.
You're welcome. A comment from both of you regarding, if you so desire. If you don't, then we will move on and get something from what you would put on the table.
No, certainly, I would like to comment on it. I share your concern. It is something that, I think people are grappling with all over the world. And, in these islands, we need to recognize where we're at. We're in a space now, and it's, it's a space that anybody can move into. Once you're in CARICOM, you can move into that space to work. It's unfortunate. That is how corporate, decisions are made, it seems, nowadays, without any regards for indigenous people, without any regards to the people who in a particular locale. And at the end of the day, sometimes it's based on the bottom line. We have had experiences, and I don't think anyone here really is, well, I for one would not, I'm not really surprised that these things are happening. It's been a long time, a long time in coming, and we should have recognized that these things are going to happen. I've gone and I've interacted with people, not from St. Kitts, not from Nevis, people from further afield, well, within the region of, but these decisions, like you say, seem very cold, heartless, but for most companies nowadays, it's about the bottom line, It's unfortunate that this is happening, and I don't know that I see. Well, sometimes I see government make the same kind of decisions, and people who, Nevisians, are left in the cold as well. But until we have a different mindset as it relates to the ownership of things, we're gonna get, knocked about like this. I'm sure that most people who have had issues as it relates to reporting faults and stuff like that, most of the times you're not talking to people from Nevis, they sometimes have call centers and handle these calls. You would call to tell them about something happening in Brownhill next to your house, and you think that the person, when it used to be people who are familiar with Brownhill, then you could just say, well, and give them the landmarks like that. Somebody would answer you from Barbados now. If anyone answers, sometimes it's a robocall. But that is the way things are going, and we're just going to have to make the adjustments and accept that, we're going to have to become a little more competitive as a people. I don't know, mind you, why the offices, staffed the way they are present time. But we're going to have to get competitive as a people. We're going to have to know technology. We're going to have to get some retraining. All that is going to be a part of our survival in this marketplace.
Well, Stanley, on that matter, I would like to say, even though there's this sense of unity between the islands, between St. Kitts and Nevis, we've still got to remember that these are two different islands, and what happened here in Nevis, of course, will affect Nevisians being here more than Kittitians being there, and vice versa. I think the state of affairs gives the politicians a lot more work to do, because they got to look out for their for their
Constituents.
for their constituents. They definitely got to do that, and that's why sometimes it makes me smile, because here we are in Nevis and we got these big expectation about things coming over from St. Kitts. And to me, whereas we might see some things happening in that respect, the politicians in St. Kitts have to look after their constituents down there. Especially a government that is in its first term. They got to prove themselves to be re-elected. They got to take care of their business down there. They got to take care of their people. And we got to do the same here. We got to do the same here. The sense of unity and the talk of unity is good. And so it is right across the Caribbean. We've got one thing called CARICOM, but we are all competitors amongst ourselves. We're competing against each other. And even in this little arrangement with St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Kitts and Nevis compete with each other. And one would like to see some kind of resolution to that kind of attitude or reality, put it that way. Because one would thought in a federation of two islands, when one of the islands seek to pursue a particular line of investment or research, the other island would respect that and try to give it momentum, knowing that we are all one. But we don't see that in St. Kitts Nevis.
Well, we see that with the financial services, though.
We see that with the financial
the offshore
services.
business. St. Kitts hardly doesn't.
That was threatened once upon a time. But, and we, believe it or not, we are in competition for the tourist dollar. We are in competition for foreign investment. And many more aspects of our development. So I think even though we don't want to see that boundary line, it does exist. It does exist. And it's an appropriate time to be talking about it, because we're dealing with independence here. And we are wondering why Nevisians are late in terms of really getting involved and getting emotional about independence. Less so than the Kittitians. Yes, I agree with Dr. Bartlett. That is what we're going to have to deal with. We're going to have to be more efficient, more professional, better work ethics. We will have to up our game, because we are in a marketplace now that can be infiltrated from people, from all over the region. It's not just St. Kitts, because when I visit RBTT, I see all kind of people in there from Dominica and so forth, which is good, because I suppose that's what we signed up for. But bear in mind, we got to be up to the game, otherwise we're going to be left out. It's one thing for politicians to look out for Nevisians, but it's another thing when we're examining the capability and the level of knowledge and know-how that we have. Because if we don't have it, we're going to be booted out of the marketplace, basically. So preparedness is very important. The sense of patriotism cannot be erased, regardless of what. And I would like to say that as it relates to St. Kitts too, because I think Nevisians and Kittitians have a political unity. From a Nevisian's point of view, I think it's been forced upon them. I don't think Nevisians are ever politically happy with the political relationship in St. Kitts. Let me say that again. I don't think that Nevisians are ever happy with a political relationship with St. Kitts. I'm not saying I say a political relationship. Since I know myself, I never really realized that. One would hope that would improve, and there are efforts to improve it. Yes, and that is the backbone why Nevisians celebrate the independence a little less than Kittitians do. These are reality. I mean, the political history of Nevis is coming from the standpoint of political independence for Nevis. the recent unity thing seems to be a product of Joseph Parry, with no disrespect at all, because he's the one who said he do not want to hear that word secession nowhere. And then it looks like everybody have got the fever and afraid to mention the word, even the CCM, which is, we accept that very skeptically and tentatively, really. And we vow to give it a chance, and we're in the midst of that exercise today. How it is going, I'm not sure. I still understand there is some tug of war, and there would always be tug of war, really. But the truth is it beneficial to both islands? And I'm not saying it's not, and I hope it is. I suppose it is. But never at all I would like to see Nevis get left behind, or even to be consumed by Sinkets. If I'm happy about this political unity, I cannot be conclusive with an answer on that, because I think we got some time to go. Yes, I would like to see, if there is this political unity between Sinkis and Nevis, I would like to see a Nevisian become the Prime Minister. Nobody can tell me that that's not possible. And if that is not possible, we shouldn't have nothing to do with Sinkits and politics. They must find a way around that. If it's the brevity of Nevisians, if it's their ego, if it's their ambition, whatever it takes, we got to rise up and make demands and position ourselves that becomes a reality. Because regardless of what is he who control the money, run things. A good friend of mine in Sinkits always said to me, the problem is Naya, you guys don't control the money. You guys don't control money. I don't totally understand what he's saying, because all that I see sometimes is a Nevis that is lagging behind in terms of relative to Sinkits, in terms of an improvement and an increase in rate, put it that way. Development at an increase in rate. I'm not saying it's not happening, but it seems to be very static over here. Of course, we are faced, as we are today, with a situation that we have been dealing with too long. You know, the Four Seasons situation, the closing, the opening, you know, the hurricane. And that is what we are talking about, really. When we talk about a sense of pride and patriotism, we must feel at home. Our home must be able to, in many ways, keep us here and fulfill our needs. And opportunity must be a bond. And so these are the things that really affect one patriotism, especially when we are so closely aligned with our sister islands. I think it's Kittitians and Nevisians are beautiful people. We get along all the time, but there's always this political tension, and one would hope that what we started out to talk about, Kittitians being in the office in Nevis, you know, that shouldn't really be an issue. And as long as that remains an issue, there are other issues as it relates to the relationship. Mr. Stanley.
But just to follow up what you were saying, though, we have to put it in context. It's not just about, and we can't, you know, just say they're Kittitians. I don't even know, you know, the nationality of the people who are there at the office. But what we have to recognize is that it's open to the people in CSME.
Yeah.
Are we prepared as a people to accept our obligation under, you know, the charters and all the different things? And I don't know if Nevisians or even Kittitians to that, you know, extent are really fully briefed as to what it entails, you know. I happen to have a little interest in the matter, you know, like a lot of things I like to read. But there's some people who just don't have the time, and you know, and should there not be a concerted effort, though, to educate our people as it relates to CSME? Because, like I said, the people in the office today might be people from St. Kitts, and tomorrow it might be people from elsewhere. Because, like I said, I've seen people there, and it's not just in that particular institution, and we have to be ready. And, like I said, I think that we might not have gotten the best, start as it relates to that. I don't think that, because I think that there was an educational component of that whole exercise, if I should call it that, not to demean it anyway. But I don't think that if we are still having issues with seeing people who are not us, stuff in particular places, then it means that we have not yet gotten it, the full extent of what it means. And so when the Haitians start coming in and the other people start coming in, and after a while, if it's called free movement, I say maybe people should start reading, because nowadays you can Google almost anything, and instead of sometimes the kind of things I see people passing along on WhatsApp and stuff like that, spend a little more time, and you have the tool, at your disposal. Research, a subject come up, research it. If you hear about CSME tonight, and you might have heard about it before and you had little interest, I would encourage all of us as Nivision Skititians and all those who are listening to us tonight to at least spend some time, just Google it, get as much information on it as you can, and then ask questions, ask pertinent questions of because sometimes the kind of questions I hear people asking of the politicians hasn't, not, it might affect your eating today, but it might not prepare you, for the famine that is to come in years to come. So I'm just saying all that to appeal to our people to be ready to, because people are going to descend on us, not that they necessarily want to, but everybody looking for better opportunities, like we have done. We have gone far afield looking for better opportunities. So it is only, logical that people would want to come here if they think that, the grass is green on this side. So I just want to make the appeal again to people, get involved, just don't sit and say government not going to protect us, because they have already, signed off that right, so the kind of protection that you think that you're going to get is not even a legal, framework for that. So don't expect that government is going to protect these jobs. Don't expect that, you're going to be working in a place, for whatever period of time, notwithstanding that you have your mortgage to pay in Nevis. You might have to go to St. Kitts to pay for your mortgage in Nevis, It's just the harsh reality of the thing, but it means that we just have to, as a people, get more involved in our destination.
We'll take a break and we'll have further comments.
City, Nevis, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, Vaughn Radio.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. We've got over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Oh, and remember, we are open all day Saturday to serve you better. Call them today at 466-4938.
Yes, we are back. The numbers to call, the lines are open. 469-1616, 469-1700. Please become a participant. Be part of the viewing, and let's go forward. Now, as we grasp with this last item we put on the table, the objective for all our peoples is to begin to prepare themselves, because we are in a competitive world. And Naya mentioned it, Pat mentioned it. And if you decide to sit on your laurels, dog will eat your lunch. The objective is for you to make a clear determination as to where you are, where you want to go, and how to get there. People who are in this particular corporate entity, and not only from St. Kitts, but also from other islands, and you have studied our own dialect, you have studied our musical speech, and you can tell. And if you are a Nivijan and you feel somewhat put out because somebody from elsewhere has come and has displaced some of us, we must ask the question, why? It may be that they have prepared themselves, as well as they might just have a godfather at the corporate level where they were able to be given a leg up, and as a result, they're here. So now you're faced with the harsh reality that somebody is taking your space. You have to begin to do something, which means you have to go back and retool. Like I've mentioned in the past, that I've never known of unemployment when I was growing up. People found things to do because they prepared themselves for the long haul. We have to live, and we must have a sense of survival, and we have to do things in order for us to live. Good evening, you're on Let's Talk.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Long time we have not heard you.
I don't be listening though.
Very well.
Oh, let me compliment Mr. Weber. He deserves to be honored, and all the other divisions who were honored yesterday, and all the other recipients. Now, I found something that is Naya, his name is Mr. Liebert?
Yes.
Was talking about the relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis and the movement of people. And somebody made the comment that our people don't know their rights. As a member of the OECS, you have freedom of movement, you know. Other people seem to know it, but I think maybe we feel we are too well off. So we don't move. Because it is the right of the, you see all the Jamaicans who come? They understand CSME. The Trinidadians and the Guyanese, they understand what CSME means. So when nothing is doing in their island or country, they move. The other day I was thinking, when the Four Seasons, now we have the Park Hyatt, which is, I think, of the same rank as Four Seasons. I don't know if Mr. Liebert know, but I have heard people say that the majority over there are Nivisians, which I expect. And I am thinking, if you're going to have the Ramada and the opening, Nivisians given their training in an upscale sector of the hotel, they shouldn't even blink. They shouldn't even think about it. They are entitled to every benefit in St. Kitts as part of the Federation. So when I hear people making certain remarks, you can benefit Nevis by working in St. Kitts, so that no Kittitian should feel disenfranchised when they see another division in a position. I don't really think about that. You know, and this thing about you're saying something?
No, go right ahead, caller. Go right ahead.
And the CVQ, the Caribbean Vocational
Qualification.
You know, the qualification. We have people in our federation who are qualified but who refuse to get the certificate. because we're so accustomed to hiring people because we know them. But the people who are coming in now to do the work are the investors. In their country, you have to show some form of certification. If you say you're a Mason, you must show that you're a Mason. In saying it, we say, well, oh, we know you're a Mason because you're a Mason a long time. The provision is there, but our people, for some reason, they are delaying in trying to acquire the qualification. You know, and the issue of a Nivision becoming a prime minister, nothing is wrong with that. Nothing is wrong with it. To me, the trouble seems to be in Nevis. Because here you have Mr. Amory and Mr. Brantley holding positions in the federal government. And the Nevis opposition making a big hullabaloo out of it. Oh, they can't be there and they can't be here. Well, if they're going to be the Prime Minister of the Federation, they're going to be here and there. So to me, the problem seems to be parochial, insular, with some of the persons in the islands. They must begin to see themselves as part of the Federation, not just as a colony. Once you see that, you act differently. You're entitled to anything and everything. In saying it, or the Federation belongs to you. So we should begin to plant that in our people's mind, rather than say, oh, well, we want secession and all of that. And for the Nevis economy, they need to open it up. For too long, I heard the Premier talking about some people want to keep Nevis in a pristine kind of way. It is up to us as Nevisians. Well, I have Nevisian background, but I'm Barkitian. Now, it is up to the Nevisians to decide the type of development they want. The investor could say, well, oh, he don't want this and they don't want a crowd of tourists on the island. But if that is what it takes to get your people work, it has to become a political decision rather than just some investor telling you what you can and cannot do. And so it is our own people, to me, our own people who keep back ourselves from getting where we want to go. That's where I stop.
Thanks for the contribution. Makes a lot of sense. Well, for me, I don't believe in secession. I believe we are one people, one destiny. And in that regard, whatever we do in Nevis, we can do it in St. Kitts. Whatever we do in St. Kitts, we can do it in Nevis. And if you're a Kittitian, you have all the rights and privileges under the Constitution to be whatever you want to be in the nation and country where you were born. The only thing that sometimes I would pull back on is that sometimes we believe we have so many rights that we believe that those people who are coming, they don't have the right to have an opportunity. They don't have the right to be engaged and to participate in other things. But yet sometimes we believe, because we have the right as citizens, everything must be packaged for us, everything must be kept in abeyance until we are ready for it. But that's not the case. There are people who are moving forward, prepare themselves, and ultimately, when the time comes, they're going to move into our space. And in that regard, I have said it on this radio station, and I'm certain all the panelists have said it, that we have to prepare ourselves that when the time comes, we are able to keep the real money jobs, the big jobs. But if you don't prepare yourselves, if we don't prepare ourselves, ultimately, somebody will eventually prepare themselves and take our space. And in that regard, those who are coming out of the primary, secondary, sixth form, as the case may be, or tertiary levels, they have to be able to get the certification, the preparedness, whatever they must have in order to make big money. I was out. I mean, I left here and I went out. Went on to school. And when I came back, I looked around and I said, I can make a living in Nevis. But I recognized that it was not going to be a cakewalk. I went back and I planned for 2 years and I came back. And when I came back, a year later, 2 years later, 10 years later, people still asking me, you're still here? I said, I was born here. So what are you going to do to get me out of here? You have to compete with me. I will have to compete with you. And as a result, I am competing in order to keep my space and to earn a living. And I'm saying this to all of our peoples. And the politicians now have to take a page from that written book, that you can't always be out there giving our people, because they probably would expect it all the time. And rather than they're going and preparing themselves, they might always believe that there's a godfather or a grandfather who would give them something, and ultimately they don't have to pay for it. But the time has changed. The time has come for everybody to get up off their laurels. Nevis and St. Kitts, as a nation, is a nation with prosperity, a nation with opportunity. And based on continuity, if you prepare yourselves, you'll get your share. Somebody mentioned the Trinidadians. They're coming in with their qualifications. Most of the Guyanese coming in, and they're coming in with determination to work hard, till the soil, and make a bundle of money out of our soil that we have abandoned.
They come with qualifications too.
Well,
But you see, the thing is, we have certain vulnerabilities that sometimes, ought to be considered, and our people, our politicians, need to be able to recognize that they have a duty of care. They must be able to prepare or get their people prepared. You don't just go out and sign these, agreements and not make the effort to prepare your people. And I don't think that they've done enough to get us prepared. There's still a lot of people here who are ignorant of the fact that other people can just come and work. You're here, well, why this guy needs to come and why this person from this Jamaican could get this job, And because we don't even know, we're not even aware of what, the rights that these people have. When you really look at it, we really don't have that many, rights, more rights than they do. I mean, I can't even recognize one. Maybe we could get a birth certificate here. Maybe that's it. But you see, the thing is, it's kind of unfortunate because small islands, and just like how small countries compare to bigger countries, and have these, disparities between them, but they still sign on to the same agreements, Sometimes they give you a little period of time, a grace period to catch up, But if you don't have the tools to catch up, sometimes you're not going to get there. If you're going to compare yourselves to Jamaica, you compare yourself to Trinidad, those people have, institutions, tertiary level education institutions that we're ahead of us. Our students have to pay and go there, and, it is not really just, everybody doesn't have a fair opportunity. Let me say it that way. They have universities we don't have. We have to travel to go there. You can go to Trinidad and find a man, with 2 degrees. He's not even employed. So it's kind of, we're in a peculiar situation, and you must make provisions for that. If it is that you have to maybe, ring fence some people, and say, well, okay, because the caller made reference to the fact that some people here don't have the qualification, but they reckon, or identify themselves as a certain tradesman, okay, I'm a plumber or whatever it is, but that poor guy, maybe he couldn't even read, but he is proficient. He could do plumbing, He's had years of experience. Those people, you might have to ring fence them, give them certain, privileges, that the younger person coming up now who had the opportunity to go to school, I mean, I don't find that we have been properly prepared, and I don't even know that enough of an effort. And if there was an effort made, I apologize for not being able to recognize it, but all I'm saying is it needs to be more of a visual effort. People need to be able to see it, people need to be able to feel it, and we need to have more discussions on these agreements that our representatives will go out and sign and come back. They have implications for us here. And if we're not prepared, then, but we keep going to the polls anyway, and we're just recycling the same set of people, you know, recycling them. And things are not necessarily done any different, you know. I mean, I just think that we could do better.
Well, recycling is probably the word that would be used over and over, because there are people who don't step up to the plate. They don't step up to the plate and make themselves available in a competitive manner, but would sit back and say, well, look, why are you the premier? Why are you the deputy premier? Why are you the prime minister? Why are you the head of this department? But there are people who have not stepped up to the plate and prepared themselves. You have to be hard-nosed and competitive, and you have to want it. And if you want it, you have to go after it.
But when you get it, you have a responsibility to your people. That's just my point.
But I hear you, but there is an institution in the OECS, I believe, that does certification, and I've heard it publicized that you would sign up, get your information in through to them, and they would work you through getting certified. And therefore, there are efforts made, although everybody may not have the same way of getting the information, but those of us who know, as we are saying it on the radio, there is an institution in the OECS, I can't remember the name of it, but it is geared toward bringing about certification for certain people in certain skilled areas. So if the politicians have not said it enough, then let us repeat it here and urge them to begin to say it more and more, so that those people who need to be certified can find the avenue through which they can be certified. But navies and syndicates, like I said, are prosperous countries. You have to be able to conceptualize it, understand it, and implement it. There are people who, for some reason, just don't see the wealth in this country, simply because they might be too lazy, simply because they have been given a lot of things, and as they've been given, they're still expecting. But based on the cost of living now, it takes an enormous amount of your resources, earned resources, to keep up. So you have to begin to understand that you have to redouble your efforts and to increase your income so that you can at least put something aside and get onto the next rung of the ladder. Comment from you, Naya.
Well, certainly, Stanley, you know, I always agree with you as it relates to your idea and philosophy of hard work. I don't always agree with you when you speak about savings, and sometimes, but of course I totally agree with you. Skills training, I think, in an effort to prepare our people, and in a simple region.
Hold your fire now.
As the federal.
Good evening, let's talk.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I agree with Pat, what she said a while ago. I think the politicians the parties need to be reshuffled. We need new parties. We need a party of ladies.
Start one.
Well, that's what we are saying here. The ladies now have to come forward and be competitive. You have to prepare yourself. And if for some reason, if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. And if you now have the vision that a party of ladies must take their rightful place, then maybe you could be the agitator, the catalyst, or the person who can initiate the move to bring about a party of ladies. And we will see exactly how they fare against the men. Good evening, you're on Let's Talk.
Yes, good evening. We are all strained from the point of what it is. all those people who were working for the telephone company, you want to say they were not qualified and they were there for years doing the job? That's not what it's going for. It's not you are already qualified. You are already working for years. And the next point is, all those people who are coming here, some of the jobs you don't need no qualification for. You paying here $10 for that job. Those people come and take 5. Those are the people who get in the job. The government not looking into that, but election, they would tell it. Our people here are suffering, and you're bringing other people from other countries coming in here, taking the jobs from here. Our people here are suffering, and all they're saying, people does not want to work. That's not the point. People want to work, but the point is when you pay $10 for a job, they are taking 5 or 6 or 4, and they're getting the jobs, and the government not looking to see what's going on with their people here. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the call.
Well, that is what competition is. Competition, that's what competition. Sometimes, sometimes we are overqualified for some jobs, and sometimes we just take jobs because, we must make ends meet. But what we need to understand, though, that there's no protection, there's no cloak of protection for you just because you're from Nevis. Companies make those kind of decisions. Sometimes they make the top positions redundant because they don't want to. They reach to a certain ceiling. They're not going to pay more than $10 in this particular jurisdiction. For whatever, and that is the kind of harsh decision that they seem to make sometimes. And sometimes they just replace us by using some robot. It's unfortunate, but that's why I said we need to start earning and owning. We need to start owning more of the businesses. We have too many businesses that are dependent on outsiders, and when they withdraw, it really impacts the whole economic order because you could be working for a company now and that has happened, and they make you redundant, and then what do? You're working for $10,000 by, let's say, Scantel, and then they make you redundant, and then you can't find another job, but you would have had commitments. Your $10,000 would have been going towards a house because you had your dream home, and now they're going to repossess on you because you can't afford to you can't find a job that pays you that kind of money. But we need to own more of what we have, the companies. We need to start, and that is the thing, we need to start re-educating our people. And the school system, we have to look at that, because I was just sharing with a friend, recently. In school, they teach us to be individualistic. They're not teaching us how to work as a community. I remember one day I saw these kids going home, 3 of maybe the poorest kids in Brown Hill area, and they were going home. They were sent home because they couldn't, on an individual basis, come with a project. They had to buy a light bulb and some other little things. And that's the thing. From that age, in primary school, you're taught to be independent. You don't or exclusive. Whatever you have is yours. So you're not having these kids start meeting of the minds and coming up with projects. So each kid has to make the same volcano thing. I'm sure you all would have seen this every year, the same thing. Every child has to make their own individual volcano. Ridiculous. Why couldn't we, as a group, come up, and so you have very little variation between the volcanoes that you see, all them basically the same thing. Why is it that you couldn't have a group of kids get together and they might be able to come up with a volcano that is different, But that's the kind of thing that you get from primary school. We're not taught how to work together. And if we don't start it there, and I think that all like those projects, they should try them out, let the kids work in groups, learn to work in groups. So by the time you leave school, Naya and I might be able to come together and form a business, but in school now, we have already been trained on this part to take an individual approach to life. You can't get your life on your own, not the way it is now, and not with the challenges that we're experiencing.
Hold the fire, please. Good evening, Let's Talk.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I agree with that lady who called a while ago about the ladies group. The ladies forming a party. I think I chose Pat as one of that ladies.
Thanks. I'm honored.
There's a fundamental. What is the glue that holds the CSME together? Because sometimes it looks like people just folly fashion. I mean, we see the European Union and we see how groups, and we want to be a part of a regional unity effort, it looks like to me, because all of a sudden we hear about CARICOM passport and the free movements of people. To me, they arrived there pretty fast, honestly, without, you know, a common legal front, without, you know, that political nexus between the island, without that economic nexus between the island. What is the glue that holds the CSME together? Why it's been formed really is a good question. And why it's been kept so much as a secret from the everyday people in these islands. To me, these are very fundamental questions because, you know, whereas it took a long time before the Europeans get European citizenship. I mean, that came at the end of the rope. Here it seems to be at the beginning. I mean, the legal and the political and other aspects of life, the economics, especially the economics, trading, dependency on each other, exchange, was a thing, was a part of what enables the European Union to come together and be alive up to today. But what is it going on in the Caribbean? Do we trade amongst each other? All of a sudden we got people moving from one country to the other, coming here to live here. I mean, what is the glue, Mr. Stanley? Could you answer that question? I mean, if you can't, it's okay. That holds the CSME together.
I'll come to it now. Good evening, Let's Talk.
Yes, I just want to give a try at answering the question that the gentleman just asked. Now, if he goes back, you have the federation, then you now have the larger countries and the other international organizations saying, look, we don't want to deal with 20, 15, 18 small islands. You all have to find a way of getting yourselves together. So it is an economic and a political decision that it might have originated outside, if you want to say, the federation. But there were leaders also who had a vision that, look, we either get together or we will all drown. Because even though you cannot compete, and then now look at the CSME. What would have happened to the islands like Jamaica and Trinidad when the economy started to collapse if they did not have free and easy access to other countries? What would have happened to them? Guyana, with the economy that was once strong, in shambles. So there are benefits. It so happened that the smaller countries were able somehow to manage better, or we were surviving at a little higher level. So we feel it now the most because labor always moves to where the wages are higher. Always move. Mm-hmm. And so there's a reason, and it benefits our people. But the problem I find with our people is that we are not willing to move. We are too slow to move. Jobs are advertised on the internet, you know, where some of our graduates could go. Oh, well, I'm not going to the Windward Island and I'm not going to St. Lucia. That is our attitude. And it works like how the government gives welfare. They get stepped, now they get 500. Then I move. Who else is here giving that kind of benefit? You don't got to work. I mean, you've got to be realistic. If one day the government says step shut down and step shut down, you see how passport come out and plane ticket. These are realities. And for investment, we can invest in other people's country. I know we're still insular. I know I go to Barbados where my daughter lives. And they're saying, oh, Trinidad want to take over the country. You could imagine? While at the same time, foreign investors from outside of the region practically own the place. So we still have some way to go. But you as whatever work you're doing, Mr. Stanley, he's in real estate. He could engage in that activity in non-net by selling land in another country. He's entitled to. CSME say you have a right to move people and capital. And so we are, and don't say that they don't know, they refuse to know. We have had a number of workshops. CARICOM has been carrying out workshop after workshop about the movement of capital, encouraging people to go out and invest in other countries. We are wasting time. We seriously wasting time, and that's why we grumble. And the lady who called about the wage, unless there is a set minimum wage and it's set at $9 an hour, unless there is a set minimum wage for the task, you have to compete. And when the people come in and take it, you may have to go in and compete at a higher rate but lower than what you used to get. Otherwise, you'll end up like what happened now at the Southeast Peninsula. We had hundreds of Santo Domingans. They're the ones who build out most of those things over there. But our people refuse. I ain't going over there because if they went over in large enough numbers, the wages would have gone up. All right then.
Thanks again for the contribution. Well, Dr. Bartlett mentioned something about the students who were sent home. And I tell you, the mind is very vast. And we have to take a multitude of approaches with regard to teaching our people. Some will grasp and will grasp quickly, and some would not grasp as quickly as the others. And therefore, our teachers have to be trained to come up with varied approaches in order to get our people educated. So with reference to what Dr. Bartlett mentioned, with the collective minds coming together, I still believe that the opportunity of singularly train a mind, and as the mind is so vast, in my view, the mind will eventually find its place, bringing together and also separating, but ultimately the goal is to go upward and onward.
Yeah, but if you're conditioned from early, to work on your own, to achieve things on your own, you're less likely to form corporations, you're less likely, to have these kind of unions that economic, partnerships, that could benefit the people, and that's why we always seeking, to work for somebody else or, to do our thing by ourselves, so we don't have a lot of companies that are owned by divisions, because we don't have that concept ingrained in us that we could move to the next level a little faster if we had somebody with us. We want to do it alone. And so that was just my point. And as it relates to just a little clarity on what I was saying, as it relates to these three kids, it's not that they couldn't learn, because one amongst those three would have been one of the poorest, and it's not like she's one of the brightest in the class. She just couldn't afford that is, they just couldn't afford, the project, materials. But I just said that to say how I, arrived at the conclusion that, maybe we need to start, getting them to pool their resources rather than everybody to come with their own resource. Everybody doesn't have to come with a light bulb when you're basically teaching the same concept. Why everybody have to come with their own light bulb? And then at the end of the day, they end up over on the dump and all the little one battery. And I just was fine that is just,
Well, I think one of the big setbacks among our people is brought about by the lack of trust. We have heard from a very early age that partnership is what? Finish the quote, a leaky ship. And consequently, there are people who just don't go down that route. I mean, I heard of a scenario currently. I don't want to bring the name to the fore. But this was a mint. This thing was, making money hand over fist. But all of a sudden, simply because of the lack of trust, the thing actually went overboard. And therefore, you can't fault our people for being dreadful of fire, being dreadful of failure, being dreadful of faltering. But again, people have to begin to think individually. Because from the time I was very small, I said the very first thing I'm going to do before I get a house, I want a car to run taxi. And I'm just saying I was thinking as a businessman at a very early age. The butcher came in the yard, they can't talk to me. Although my sisters were there, they were older than I was. But I'm just saying to you, based on individual training, and the mind is vast enough to grasp the collective training and to bring about partnerships.
Well, why are we not seeing that? So why aren't we seeing
Some
that?
people
All I'm
just
saying
want
is
to be employees, and they got to get out of that mindset. That mindset got to be knocked out of their head. Because I understood this is a pathway that UE is now taking, rather than showing how they could be the employee. Get your name on the door. There is I have a gentleman here now who says, look, I want to see my name on the door. That is the concept. You have to look at it larger scale and upscale. You brought about the glue which is holding CSME. Economies of scale. You can't operate as a smaller unit in this global sphere. People now got to begin to pool their resources, as the case might be. It might be slow in coming, but ultimately that is where it's heading. You can't do much when you don't have the leverage or firepower to get the right scale, get things done to the extent where you become a larger employer. But the books are written, and all we have to do is to go back to the drawing board and come up with a new plan, new paradigm, and eventually we will get there. But I'll tell you, St. Kitts and Nevis, in my view, is poised as a nation to do big things. I mean, I just went over to St. Kitts a couple of days, last week, Thursday, I think. And when I looked at St. Kitts looks good. Nevis also looks good. Once we get our roads open and so on, people are coming in. People will come in. And if
I don't think people are sitting out there and waiting for the roads to develop.
not only the roads. I'm saying to you, based on the fact that Will Rogers said, acquire land because they're not making any more of it, and therefore space, people are looking for space. And once they have ideas, and those ideas are well thought through, many of our people will become successful. They just have to put out the energy, put out the effort, and the determination in order to make a success of whatever they go after. Stop thinking like an employee. Begin to think like the employer.
Well, we have a lot of employers, in all fairness to
sure.
We have a lot of employers. It's just that we don't have any large scale of anything. Because collectively, maybe we could be owning big businesses, but if we're going to all do it individually, sometimes the capital is available to us. I mean, they would provide money for you to build a house for $600,000, but you only get $100,000 to build a business. What business you can build with $100,000 really? That is a small business, and likely to stay small. Just with our own mentality, it's likely to stay small. I want to see the reverse. I want to see them, giving us more money enough to invest in businesses and less money to build houses, unless the house is going to be a business. That again is, I guess, is a different discussion.
Well, no, it's up for discussion because you see, there are people who truly are bent on this idea. They want to acquire a house, and I'll tell you, it is one of the most expensive undertaking in one's lifetime.
And we're not prepared for that here either, because we don't get enough financial counseling. Because I see people taking on, mortgages that they ought not to take on at certain
Terrible.
ages, and they're being encouraged. And government, is to be faulted for that in a big way. It used to be that Nivisions had dreams for houses, You would build your dream house and you would sketch it out and thing, and you want this bedroom here and then, those kind of things. But we're not getting dream houses now, you're just getting a house. And people need to recognize you're stuck with that house for the next 30 years, Whether you like your neighbor or not, whether the deterioration around you, whether you're keeping yours in pristine condition and other people around you. I mean, those kind of considerations, and these people are being pegged with a house for 30 years. And it means that most of us are house poor, by the way. We can't buy nothing else after that. And then we're wondering why the economy is not as buoyant as, people would like it to be. Because most of the people are house poor. There's very little discretionary, income that they can buy things to circulate in the economy. And I keep saying that, and politicians keep getting upset with me, and I can't stop saying it, because I don't think it's a responsible way of us building a nation. It is not a responsible way. Not when you make most of the people house poor. And then when people start talking about recession, you get upset. That is not, that is not kosher.
But people have to begin to understand how the real game is played. And you can't take on this massive load of a mortgage and then think you're going to get up the ladder. It is impossible. I mean, I could tell you, when I came back here, I had a couple of shillings in my pocket, but I sure put down something very, very small. Even the Honorable, the late Malcolm Gishan said, man, when you come back here, when you came back here, I saw what you built, but I knew exactly what my game plan was. And I ate at all the hotels, decent meal every night, but I made sure I didn't sink a lot of money into a house before I actually establish a business. That's the vehicle that's going to carry the load. And I've said it to so many people. But a lot of our people are not listening. A lot of people do not listen. A lot of people need to be trained as to how to listen and to follow through. Because I have told so many people, you can be wealthy. It's not going to be easy. There's some pain to it. But you have to listen, understand, and be ready to have some pain, but you will get there. And you have to stick with it. There are times when it looks like nothing might be happening, and you have to rethink and rethink and rethink and come up with strategies in order to continue to go forward. But Nevis and St. Kitts, in my view, is a bonanza for economic growth. Nothing happens before its time.
But we need new money.
Money's out there.
We need new monies. We're just circulating the same.
Money's out there because
government takes it from you in taxes. They give it back to you in whatever form.
There is a program with the government which trains people to run and ultimately own a business.
SIDU?
Maybe SIDU.
Yes, small enterprise development unit.
My neighbor has gotten into an entity, the tent business, and she went to the sessions. There's another fellow who's into the small machinery equipment business. He went to the sessions and he's doing very well. And I'm certain if I think hard enough and long enough, I'll be able to bring other people to the fore. There are programs out there that are teachable, learnable, and if people actually listen well, apply themselves, they can do very well. Because if they were to open the floodgate and allow some of those North Americans, Canadians or Americans to come down here, you would see how quickly they would establish these businesses and do very well. But the government has been keeping them in abeyance to give us an opportunity, give the indigenous people an opportunity.
Where did you get that? Where did you get that?
Where did I get that?
Yeah. What policy government has in place to keep anybody out?
How many Americans
when
here
people see
most of these people are here doing property management You think that's all they could do?
When they see opportunities, people come in and they just take advantage of the opportunities that are created, and that is what I don't like. I don't like anybody to come from elsewhere and just come here and do the same thing that the same division's doing. Come with something new. That is a policy that government ought to have. If you're going to come from outside, come with something that is different from what is already existing here, because it's not about getting any new money. Well, it's not. It's just the same thing. I mean, how many more boats are we going to have in the water? Huh? When one person in Nevis, and that is a problem we have around here, you know, we don't have enough think tanks around to kind of help people, you know, to guide them into these businesses. You know, when one person gets a bus, remember the days when, you know, people started to get buses, you know, everybody and their cousin had a bus. Now everybody and their cousin has a boat in the water. You just have one person start something and it looks like it's going, and then everybody gets in, and then of course, you know, the returns fall, you know, flat, and then you hear people start getting out. I mean, come on.
But you have to compete.
No, but you
the
compete
strong will
for
survive.
a small pie. But that, you know, what that's what I'm saying. We are not growing that way. We're not growing that way. We're just sharing out the little that we have, dishing it out to 5 different people. You're just getting smaller portions. That is not growth. Today, I happened to hear this politician talking about why he seemed to think that Nevis is in a recession or getting into a recession or whatever. And he's like, it's because, you know, they didn't put enough money into the economy because, you know...
Hold your fire apart, please. Oh, continue, please.
And he was like, his, you know, theory was that you did not give enough support to the people from Four Seasons. I was like, oh, really?
Hold your fire apart. Good evening, you're on Let's Talk.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The lady who just called about and made suggestion about the new party for Nevis, I want to second that suggestion, and I also want to second her selection of Dr. Bartlett as one of the persons heading that party. Good evening.
Good evening.
These ladies are putting a little pressure on me tonight, Stanley. It seems like we might have to do something. But where was I? Yeah. So I don't think that we're looking at the economy as a whole. You know, we're just taking out these little snippets here and there, because I think he was addressing the fact that people used to be 4 different planes going to St. Martin in a day and all that, and now Binia is pulling out, you know. And I was like, okay, but what about the other factors? What about the fact that people don't have enough money to spend now because you all have made them poor? You have made them house poor. They cannot go St. Martin shopping like they used to, because now they're committed to a mortgage that is eating up more than 60%, sometimes in some cases more than 60% of what they make. And how you expect that person to participate in, you know, in the economy after that? That person gone home and they're pinching whatever, you know, for the rest of the week. They cannot participate at that level. So stop making all these people house poor. Let us find a different way, you know, of stimulating the economy. It's not a one size fit all, because we would think, at least we have seen, you know, economics 101, you know, in places that, you know, things are slow. You put money into housing, you put money into infrastructure. Okay, but there must be a point at which you're not getting the kind of results. And in Nevis, that is it. We have a few people working on the roads, yes. These are, you know, and no disrespect to the guys, but a lot of them not married, so it's not like they're carrying home the money to, you know, to a household. Most of the times, these guys are single, and, you know, what these single guys do on a weekend with the money, and then you know, Western Union sending it out, you know, and that is how it goes, you know. You hear these guys making big plans on Friday, what they're going to do with the money. You know, so the money doesn't really, all the money doesn't really stay here.
Could be avoided. There are solutions to problems, and these guys who are sending the money, allowing the money to go to Western Union, then the local economy can do very well. And this is where the ladies, of course, have to become focused and make sure that our monies are kept here by these guys.
Oh, please.
Oh, please. Oh, please.
But there's no commitment to family. That is my point, though. There's no commitment to family, because we don't have a policy, you know, that supports the building of families, you know. And if you have a family, you take home the money, and the money gets circulated, well circulated. But right now, you have a couple guys on this road, and the money is not, so people are not feeling it. So even though in another jurisdiction, you may have, you know, that desired effect in that, you know, things are slow and you're putting money into building houses and putting money into building roads, and you get the desired effect with the spin-off effect that men like to just talk about so flippantly. You know, I mean, it's the spin-off effect, spin-off effect, spin-off effect. What? We're not feeling it. And the reason why we're not feeling it is, like I said, the Western Union drain. But I just wanted to, you know, maybe just sensitize people. You know, it's not necessarily the politician's responsibility to make sure that you make good financial decisions. As individuals, you know, we ought to be making, you know, more prudent, you know, and sensible, you know, decisions as it relates to our well-being. You know, when you get a paycheck, all shouldn't be going into your mortgage. And I'm not saying that because I don't want people to have anything, mind you, because I have a little. But the little that I have, I work hard for it, and I made the sacrifices, you know. So when people are doing the here and stuff like that I couldn't do here, I was making the sacrifice to make sure that I, you know, do what I had to do. But putting that aside, because it's not a personal thing, you know, we're talking about generally. This is just a general thing. We need to get our people involved in businesses, you know, businesses that the economy needs, you know, these businesses. But instead of that, everybody has a house, and their cousin have a house, and then, you know, you have a family, and 5 of them inside there. They're enticed. They're enticed, and that is the word I want to use. You know, it might not be politically correct for some people, but the enticements that, you know, you draw these young people out and put them into these things, these little enclaves here and there. You know, it's not right. It is not right. There's something fundamentally wrong about that, because we know that we're making these people house poor. So it's not that they can't go St. Martin because Four Seasons was closed for a couple of months. They can't go because, you know, the habits have changed. They're forced to adjust. They can no longer participate the way they used to. And that is what is happening in Nevis, unfortunately. And too much of that is happening. And I feel it for, you know, I feel it for our people, you know, and the fact that, you know, we are so vulnerable. Because if we lose our job tomorrow, chances are we probably would end up losing the house. You know,
well, the thing is that
we don't have that cushion.
We have to have a redefinition or redefine our priorities, and maybe a new social engineer should be brought aboard to redefine exactly where we are making mistakes, and money that is going through Western Union. Figure out how we could plug it, and I understand how we could plug it. And the division right now, where the ladies are now trying to split the whole thing by saying, okay, we want a ladies thing. You're dividing the country, dividing the people in that regard, and the ladies must get together and begin to have conferences as to how to prevent the money going to Western Union, and therefore the men would bring the money back to our people. All right? So let's redefine our priorities, figure out where the problems are, and become pragmatic with reference to the solving of these problems. We will take a break, and the flip side of the break, we will have more comments.
City St. Kitts. Keep it sweet. Keep listening to Vaughn.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. We've got over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Oh, and remember, we are open all day Saturday to serve you better. Call them today at 466-4938.
Yes, we're back, and we're still listening for your calls. The numbers are 469-1700, 469-1616. Please participate.
Well, the Nevis Island administration, I've been told, have prioritized the purchasing of a property as for the Premier's office. Am I alone in that knowledge?
I don't know if it is knowledge. I saw something passed along, about some property that was, acquired. And I personally thought that it was to address, because I've never heard that the Premier was homeless. What I would have heard within recent...
Hold your fire, Pat. Good evening, you on Let's Talk.
Stanley, what do you mean about the ladies who call in, say, about a new party wanting to divide the country? Our problem is that we have a bunch of men, politicians, male politicians, and they have no credibility. That is our problem. So we do need a new party, and we're not trying to divide the country. We are trying to hold on to our country before it leaves our hands. That is what we are doing, not divide it, to hold it, because they don't seem to be they don't seem to be interested in holding it for divisions. Good night.
Good night. Well, the objective is to get in and you work from within, but still keep an eye on the division. And in that regard, you work with the women, you work with the men, and it is a much larger problem. Go back into conferences and figure it out. Sometimes we can't say everything on the radio. We can't say everything on television. We can't write everything in the newspaper. But it's a pragmatic problem, and I think if you take a pragmatic approach to it, from a social engineering point of view, we should be able to solve the problem.
No,
Go ahead, Naya.
Well, I made the comment that it seems like the Nevis Island administration have prioritized the buying of a property for the Premier's office. And I say the Premier's office because it looks like anybody who become the Premier would have access to that property. It's a matter of great concern, and I'm sure others would like to have an input on that.
Yes, but as I was saying, I was just responding to, the hearsay, because basically, I guess that's what it is. I just saw a letter that someone shared with me, and it was purported to be, the residence was, the purchase was supposed to be for the Premier's residence, not his office. And let me not say his, because it is not, individual property. It would be property of the state. But having said that, I don't know that it's a priority. And so I said to the person, no, man, I don't think that that's what it was intended for, because I never heard that the Premier was, homeless. What I did hear within recent times is that there's recognition that the population is getting aged, and there's a long waiting list for the elderly who want to be in homes, to get, the kind of care, dignified care that, they deserve at their age. And so I said it must be that that's what it was intended for. Maybe the purchase was, to develop, for an elderly home. And because I can't imagine that in this day and age, let me not say this day and age, but in this present time, with, what is going on, that that purchase would be very insensitive if, if it were to be, for that use, for the Premier's residence, and I'm just saying, no, I think I want to stick with with my theory. I want to think that, it is for the elderly home. Because there wasn't any purpose on the letter, mind you, it didn't state what the purpose of the acquisition was all about. It just said that there was this acquisition and somebody was asked to move or some story like that.
All right, well, let me bring something to the fore, because I've always heard this statement: where goes the claim, there goes the shame. And I'm saying, if somebody decides to throw some garbage there, they have a responsibility to pick up the garbage and put it in the right place. And if somebody decides to pick up the garbage, then the person who picks it up should in fact take the claim, make the claim. But whoever threw it there must take the shame. So conceptually, when we use the term, where goes the, if that is how it says, the shame, also you must take the blame as the case might be. You take the fame as the case might be. And we had the discussion last week regarding people who go out and kill. If you deliberately went out there and killed somebody, then you should take the blame and the shame. And if somebody decides to implement a measure to bring an end to that killing, I will always entertain the thought that they should make the claim for ending that dilemma. So when people say, there goes the shame, there goes the blame, and therefore, who makes the claim for the glory? I'm saying we have to become responsible for our actions. And if you decide to put down a pile of doodle there and expect the health department to come and clean it, the health department, of course, is a statutory body designed to keep the keep the place clean. And if you deliberately decide to go there and dirty the place, then you take the shame.
But Stanley.
You take the shame.
But Stanley.
You take the blame. And whoever cleans it should obviously be commended.
But Stanley, I think I know what you're referencing. But if it is that you put it there and you go and you pick it up, why should you take the fame for that? I don't get it.
No, if you put it there, you take the blame. And if you
take
it up, if you take it up,
what?
You don't get any. You don't really get any claim.
But that is the point.
But that was because you did it.
But that's the point that was made last week. It's
if
done,
you,
as the young person nowadays, it's done there. I mean, we we have a cessation to what was going on, and we said we applaud people for coming to the senses, and I think that was it. I don't think anybody was handing out medals or anything, for that. We just said, well, you commend people for coming to their senses and leave it there. And there's much, good that could come out of that. I mean, it could be a teaching, moment for some. I mean, there's some other places that may look on and say, okay, well, if these people could do it, then maybe we can do it. So maybe there's some good that could come out of the whole situation after all. But I don't know. Maybe revisiting it, I don't know if I would necessarily change my mind, because I might have said something that is contrary to what you're proposing now. But I don't know the value in that term. So
I'm just saying that the politicians sometimes have been asked to take the blame.
No.
I'm not sure
and where goes the blame? But I'm saying to you that we are at a particular juncture where we have a truce and we should applaud it.
Yeah.
We are attempting to close, and we do appreciate all the callers who called and participated. And this show repeats tomorrow at 10 a.m. And the Honorable Mark Brantley would be on tomorrow evening on the mark at 8 p.m. We thank you again for your viewing and listening and your calling. And we will see you next Tuesday night. Have a pleasant rest.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.